This is Maddie. What's up?
Yeah.
Hello, YouTube. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Maddie. I am an IFBB pro. I recently turned pro at NPC Nationals in Irving, Texas. My hair is doing something crazy. Let me make myself look normal. In Irving, Texas. And I am currently in prep. I am 9 weeks out from my pro debut. I am the CEO of Team MPowered Fitness. We work with lifestyle and contest prep athletes. And yes, I just said we, because this week we are bringing on Shelby Reed. Shelby Reed is MPowered Fitness's newest incredible addition. We are so honored to have her on this team. She is such an asset and just a vessel of knowledge and experience. She's been competing for 8 years. She has been competing for 9 years, coaching for 8 years. And this girl is just, I'm learning things from her. So we're very grateful to have her. And I figured that this was a really good opportunity to have you all kind of get to know her and to soak up all the knowledge that she has as well. So this week, we did a video together where we put polls out on our Instagram and asked you all questions about competing, fat loss, supplements, you name it. So I went through all of the questions, and at least the ones that were submitted by the time that we did this video, and we answered them here. So maybe you didn't answer a question, but maybe it's a question that you might have. I hope you guys get something out of this video. If you have any more questions, you can always comment them down below. I do my best to get around to them each and every week. But without further ado, here we go. Okay, so welcome YouTube. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Maddie. I'm not going to say it. I am an IFBB pro, not an NPC bikini competitor. I've gotten so much hate for that. I'm an IFBB pro. I am the CEO of Team MPowered Fitness. And today we are here with Shelby. Shelby is MPowered Fitness's new assistant coach.
Yay.
We're talking about all the things. Shelby, tell us about yourself.
So I am an NPC bikini athlete. I have been competing for about a decade now. I just finished my season. I'm in an off season now. I started with competing back when I was 20. I have been an athlete pretty much my whole life, and that stuck with me, and I just missed, competing once I got out of school and wasn't involved in sports anymore. And that passion went into bodybuilding, and here I am 10 years later, and now I get to help other women transform their lives and self-confidence in the same way I did, when I first started. So we've come a long way.
Came a long way. I like how you said that you're an NPC bikini competitor. I honestly think that you're more of a pro at spirit and just like based on experience than me. But not for long. The next time you hit the stage, it's going to be a sight to be seen.
Definitely.
But nonetheless, I just saw your question to my my poll. You're going to see my little forehead vein come out here a few times, but we posted a poll. And today we are answering all questions, contest prep related, and not contest prep related. I had some interesting ones on here. So we're just going to go ahead and dive in. I had a couple really good questions from introductory, like new competitors. So yeah, let's just go ahead here. Savvy Yalmager had responded to our question sticker and asked, what are your go-to glute training exercises? We had a lot of questions about glutes. So
that makes sense with us being bikini competitors, right?
Yeah, par for the course. I think it's funny because I get really, really bored with my programming. I think, Shelby, we talked about this earlier, is like, we're always asking to get things switched up. But I would say my go-tos for glutes are always going to be hip thrusts, kickbacks, cable kickbacks, working, seated hip abductions. I would say those are probably my top 3 that are targeting only the glutes. I also love like a good Smith machine, elevated front foot elevated deficit lunge.
Oh yeah, elevating the toes and even like standard RDLs, I feel like really help to isolate those upper and outer glutes. That's one of my favorite things to do. And also incorporating, because I'm training glutes so often, incorporating things like resistance bands and switching things up to really isolate and um engage those glute muscles. And another thing too I find helpful is making sure that your glutes are primed for those exercises as well. So starting by getting the blood flow in there with some banded, exercises in the beginning of your workout, like I'll do like kneeling, banded just kickbacks, or the adductors, just side kicks and things like that, to really slow and controlled, of course, but you really want to get the blood flow going before you even dive right into those
Yeah,
exercises.
that's a good point, because in ballet, as a previous ballet dancer, I always found that I'm very quad like dominant, and my quads always take over. I had a conversation with an athlete today about how in Bulgarians, I really, really struggle to isolate only my glutes. And it's taken a lot of time to like tweak that exercise to feel it there. But something that I neglected for so long was priming my muscle for movement and making sure that I'm priming the proper muscles so I can actually feel them. The other thing too that really helps is the way that your programming is being done. Like I like to incorporate for a lot of my athletes, like 3 to 4 sets of, let's say, 8 to 12 reps, and then finish out with like an AMRAP, or like one set of 30 to really like squeeze out and atrophy that muscle.
Oh yeah, yeah, you'll feel that burn, and
For sure.
I feel like that's like the exciting part about training. Like I said, as bikini competitors or female competitors in general, we are training our glutes often, and so sometimes in prep too, it's hard to get a good pump, and it's really helpful to get that engagement first and then finish with that last set to really feel like you're working the muscle properly.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, we're going to start moving through these. So, Jolie Babcock had asked, how are the classes determined at the show? So classes for bikini competitors are determined by height. That's one's pretty basic, but if you're a new competitor, you might not know that. So you're going to get measured at check-ins, and then from there, you're going to get your height class. Now, I will say this. I have been class C, I have been class D, and I have been class E. Don't fight them on your height class. Don't tell them that you're supposed to be a certain height. You are what you are.
Yeah, it's kind of, I'm between D and E usually too. So it just depends on who's measuring you, I guess. But
Yep.
at the end of the day, I guess it doesn't really matter if you're in competition prep shape,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're showing up, you're with your best. So your height, whether you're a quarter inch or a half inch in your class, I feel like isn't going to make that big of a difference if you show up looking the
Yeah. I
part.
actually, to kind of further expand on that, I was so nervous to go up against Shelby at nationals. And I remember messaging Jamie and Greg and saying, like, I went on the show website and I saw that she's class D or something like that. And they were like, she was actually C in Sacramento, right? C or E?
No, E, yeah.
E. They were like, she was actually E in Sacramento. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna hope for the best.
No, it's funny you say that, because I walked into the room, Maddie was checking in when we have the same coach, and I was just like, oh well, there goes the show for me. So
Shut up.
I was like so nervous to compete with you too.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Okay, next question. Someone said, thoughts on doing your own hair and makeup or getting someone else to do it? Yes, thoughts. So Shelby, why don't you take this one first? Because you have a background in aesthetics, and then I'll share my thoughts.
So I am actually a professional makeup artist, and what inspired that was I had my makeup done really bad by a competition. It was the sponsor of the show, the makeup sponsor for the show. And I just did not, I know competition makeup is very bold and not your everyday makeup look, but I just did not like how it turned out. And it was my first show, granted. But anyways, that's why I got into makeup and aesthetics to begin with, was I wanted to learn how to do my makeup so I could feel more confident. And I just didn't like the way that people did it on me. So if you are going to do it yourself, you definitely practice. I will say that. And reach out to, you know, your coach and ask your coach's thoughts on with makeup and everything, because it does tie the whole package together. So you don't want to step on stage and not have your makeup flow with the rest of you. It's not an everyday makeup look. So
Yeah, I will say a lot of girls, and even being a previous ballet dancer, like I did my stage makeup, even that makeup is different than makeup for a bikini show. And I know that for a lot of girls, they don't want to get up at 5 a.m. or have to tailor their show day plans to a makeup artist in a time that they're given. So it actually removes stress from their plate. For me, I want everything done for me on show day. And I will say, if it is your first show, it is so what light just turned off? Something just turned off in here. If it is, oh, it's my computer in the background. If it is your first show, there is nothing better than truly soaking up that experience and having someone pamper you and not having to stress about your eyeliner being off or anything like that. Now, with that being said, if you have a red suit, don't get red eyeshadow. Sandy just talked about this on a podcast. You don't want your suit color to match your eyeshadow, because that's what they look at. Get something natural, but know that natural by no means is like a natural smoky eye. It's very, very different.
well, and two, you're a totally different color than what you normally are used to being, you know? And so do not have your face spray tanned ever. Never let them spray. Like, stop at the neck and blend the foundation into where they stop this tan if you are going to do it yourself, because otherwise it's going to oxidize with the tan and you're going to be a funky color like on your face.
You'll be green.
And you don't. Yes, and you want it to be a little bit lighter than what your body is. But yeah, if you don't know a whole lot about makeup and stuff, your first competition or any competition really isn't the time to try and figure it out, you know? So it's definitely worth investing. Like Maddie said too, you're going to be so tired at that point too, that it's just nice to sit there and have somebody do it for you. Especially, I mean, like I said, I'm trained, so that's why I do my own. But yeah, I would definitely invest in a makeup artist for sure.
I agree. All right. So I'm going to choose like some high priority questions or like interesting ones. But if I miss anybody's question, I'll try to respond to it on Instagram. Someone had asked, with the new craze of weight loss drugs such as Ozempic, how do you think these will be used by some for prep? So I can speak on behalf of Ozempic. Ozempic, also called semaglutide, it acts on the GLP-1 receptor. So GLP-1 is triggered when you eat food, and that is what tells your body it is satiated. So in the case of Ozempic promotes weight loss because it makes you feel full. But what also makes you feel full is macronutrients that are derived from foods, carbs, amino acids from protein, monosaccharides, which are carbs, amino acids, proteins, and then fats. The issues with that though is that there's a lot of people that go on Ozempic unknowingly, and they're not informed with what's going to happen after the fact. So there's a lot of like gut issues, nausea, just like hormonal imbalances after the fact. Your hunger will come back. Like, it's not like you're learning how to control your hunger or how to eliminate heavily processed foods, high calorie dense foods, and make swaps for higher fiber things, lower glycemic things. So I think people will use it for weight loss, but do I think that they are going to be free from long-term effects? No.
Yeah, I don't know to speak on that. I don't know much about Ozempic, so I've never thought to take it. I mean, I've obviously heard of it, but
Yeah. I know the repercussions after the fact from people who have used it. Good one. Kelsey asks, I'm a veggie girl, but I have digestion issues with them while in prep. Any tips? And I'm the same way, so I can kind of start here if you want me to.
yeah, go ahead.
So I'm a veggie girl too, through and through. Like on New Year's Eve, I went out, I had drinks, I actually came home, and what I ate was carrots because I love my veggies. So first of all, it's important that you're taking a quality digestive enzyme. I've linked them in all of my YouTube videos down below. I would suggest something like a Metagest and just taking 1 to 2 of those at each meal. With that being said, there are some veggies, specifically cruciferous veggies, and for some, like myself, nightshades, that are going to be tougher to digest and break down. So it's the nightshades that contain, like, they're called lectins, that some people, not everybody, not all, protocols are cookie cutter. They can't be, but things like broccoli, cauliflower, eggplant, bell pepper, but some people, like the green bell peppers, are actually, they're not fully ripened. So those, they say, are tougher to break down than a red or an orange or a yellow bell pepper. But I always stick to like water-based vegetables, asparagus, green beans, zucchini. And even then, I'm making sure that I'm only having 85 grams at a meal. Like you can have 50 grams of green beans and 30 grams of zucchini, but I stay within like the range of 85 because you can overdo it on veggies. They're just tougher to break down. They're higher in fiber.
Yeah, I completely agree. Moderation is where it's at with that. I know that in the past, like broccoli and Brussels sprouts and things like that will really like bloat me and just make me not feel good to the point where I can't even like finish all my meals for the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, just moderation if I'm gonna have them, or I stick to the ones like zucchini that my body handles fine, and in moderation, you know.
Yeah, I also want to throw myself under the bus with this one a little bit because I used to really like try to cut corners in prep. I worked with a very much like if it fits your macros coach who didn't look at all at my food selection. Like it was just like, well, you hit your macros, like why aren't you losing weight? And I would have copious amounts of mushrooms and spinach in like all of my meals, and I would add like literally like a cup of zucchini to my oats, and then like all these things. I would get a refeed and I would use all my vegetables for my refeed, which is negating the
It's so
purpose of a
funny.
refeed. So it don't try to cut corners. If you're trying to utilize veggies, and like I'm not saying don't have them in your diet, but if you're using vegetables in order to stay fuller, like deal with the hunger a little bit.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I feel like your digestive system will thank you.
It will. Like if you're not pooping, that could be why.
Nobody will not.
We had another glute question, but please tell me how you grew your glutes. I'm struggling. I took 2 years off. I ate a lot of food. I prioritized recovery. I didn't hit them 4 days a week. And I took true rest days. But I honestly think that working with a coach through my growing period, making sure I got my intake high enough, was what helped with the growth.
I completely agree. Especially if you really want to go far in this sport, I feel like the discipline in the off season is so important for glute growth. And just like Maddie said, taking time off, taking the rest days, and eating enough food. the reason why it's taken me, I've been competing 10 years and I don't have a pro card is because I literally wanted to diet like year round and was always in a calorie deficit, was always so lean, and my glutes couldn't grow with the amount of training I was doing and the amount of food I was consuming. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, sometimes more isn't better.
Certainly. And I want to kind of give, if you're comfortable, people a little bit of backstory. Is Shelby was self-coached, and there's nothing wrong with that. She's got a tremendous amount of knowledge through trial and error. But
Right.
honestly, I think I have conversations with girls and athletes about this daily, myself included. I don't think that my calories would be nearly as high as they are, because the number, to honestly, I don't even know how many calories I'm eating. I just know the macros, and I know that it would probably scare me. So I say that because the amount of food that you probably need to be eating and the foods that you probably need to swap out of your diet in order to feel comfortable eating that amount of food, like all your high volume foods, it really, really helps to have a coach to not only help you to reach your true potential metabolically and in your off season, but to hold you accountable to that, because it's scary as hell. And your off season, this is something I say a lot, is your prep. Like your off season is what is preparing you to prep, and what is, when you prep, you're not just losing body fat, you're losing muscle too. So if you're not being intentional about your off season with your intake and your programming, and you have no means of accountability, someone you're checking in with, you're probably not going to get the most out of it that you could.
Oh, I completely agree, for sure. You set yourself up for either success or failure in that time. And then just having somebody to guide you through that, like you said, it is scary. And you don't, coming from being in the best shape of your life and then, reversing out of that and eating properly and fueling your body is just so, so important to prime yourself to do it again. Because if you're in such a calorie deficit, your body's going to start fighting you back. You're not going to put on the muscle that you want to put on. And it's just going to hinder your growth,
Yeah. Okay, we had quite a few questions from this girl. These are really good though. So her first question was, what is a current day in the life on prep look like with cardio, lifts, etc.? I think this is very subjective, so we can both speak on this question. But I'll say for myself, and I think this is kind of across the board with all athletes, you have to find a routine that works for you. Personally, I found that eating the frog in the morning, I'm not a fasted cardio girly. Fasted cardio is not superior to fed. I would eat my breakfast, take my check-in pictures, eat my breakfast, go to the gym, and I would do some of my cardio, my whole lift, and then finish the rest of my cardio all in one chunk. The benefit of that to me was that for the rest of the day, all I had left was work. I could stay home and eat my meals, and I had all my meals to go. I got my work done, and by that time it was dinner, and I honestly was in bed at prep. My friends all make fun of me. I was in bed by 8:30 every night.
It's, yeah, like a necessity. I feel like prioritizing sleep, and you're just so tired. I feel like that
Yeah.
all you want to do is lay down. Well,
But
that's how I
Shelby, when
feel
you've
at
been
then.
prepping, you've had a very different, you don't work from home always and things like that. So, or
Yeah.
didn't, now you will be. But when you before, what is your routine, typical day in the life look like?
So my typical day in the life, I like to train in the morning. And just like Maddie said, kind of get it out of the way, it's done. And then I had the rest of the day. But with my, still having to show up at a job and everything too, I had to make sure that all my meals were planned and prepped through the day. I do, I fit my macros. And so plan the meals, cook them all the first thing in the morning before I'm even heading to the gym, get myself ready for the day there, and make sure that I'm prepared for when I go to work, because I work in a place where I work at Sephora, and they vendors are always bringing in snacks and foods and things, and you know, it's just like that when the temptation's there and you're not prepared, that makes it 10 times harder on you. So preparing myself as far as that goes. Then I like to also get my cardio and my um lift in at the same time. I feel like it just works better with my schedule because I'm very busy, and so having to go and show up twice, um it makes it harder, especially like at the end of prep and everything, because the motivation is going to be lower and there are days that it is hard. So just like Maddie said, finding what works for you and getting it done regardless, you know?
Yeah, my old preps, I actually used to do cardio in the morning. Yeah. And then I would go home, do my whole day of work, and then I would lift in the afternoons. And that was honestly just torture. I don't know why I ever did that to myself, because it was like getting me there for the energy to actually train. I would much prefer just getting it all done. Okay, question here. How do you know you're ready to prep? And I think that this question can go many different ways. I think there's quite a few things that need to be assessed. And obviously with my background, my first answer is going to be, what's your hormones like? Not just your hormones, but like, what is your internal health like? Like if you're dealing with digestive issues out the wazoo, you're constipated all the time, you're, I don't know, like crashing at 3 p.m. and like dealing with high stress, or your cortisol super, like we got to fix those first. Timeline on that, who knows, you know, irregular cycles, all that stuff are things that you don't want to enter into a prep, recognizing that prep is only going to make all that stuff worse. It's not going to make it get better or make it go away. I think behaviorally, things like binge eating, things like, you know, having issues with the scale and what the scale, I think we all have that to some extent, but to the point where it really, really affects you and the way that you show up and execute on a day-to-day. Those things you should be working on before you prep. I think having a solid foundation of muscle, like depending on your goals, if your goal is to actually go somewhere in this sport, there's a lot of girls who say like, I have an athletic background, I've been training in the gym for 2 to 3 years, and I want to compete in a bikini competition. That's great, but training for bikini is very different than just training to look like an athletic girl. You know, we train a lot of shoulders, we train a lot of back, we train a lot of glutes. And so making sure that you've got a balanced physique to actually be competitive, if that's your goal. And then I think the last thing I would probably say is like your external environment, like having enough money for these shows, having enough money to invest in a coach. I actually had a DM from a girl the other day. It was like a voice memo, and she's self-coached. I think she's like 17 or 18. And she was asking me, had said that she had like depleted her water intake. She's like, I'm in prep and I'm like, I don't remember how many weeks out. So she wasn't like a week out or anything like that. And she was like, I cut my water like down to like 16 ounces, or it was something crazy. And she was like, and I was like, my mouth was dry and I was just so thirsty, and I lost like 6 pounds, but then I drank water and I gained 10. And she's like, now I don't know how to, and I was like, you need a coach. Don't do this. If you're not like, if you really don't have the financial means to compete, it's okay. Like, just wait until you do, and do it right. And then I think tying into that, like relationally, you want to have some means of support, whether that's friends, boyfriend, parent.
Yeah, I completely agree, because the support system and the people you have around you will make or break you, you know, in a prep. If the
Yeah.
support isn't there, it makes it really hard, and not everybody's going to understand when you start to change and commit to something that they don't understand and have never seen or done themselves. There's no way to explain to them, you know, what you're doing, you know. And I think that having those healthy relationships and a good coach definitely um the finances to compete and everything. It's all things to consider, you know.
Yeah, well, because the last thing that you want, is finances to be the thing that you're like, oh crap, like I did this whole prep and now I can't afford like show entries or the hotel or my coaching after the show. Like, I don't think sometimes we think about these things long term. Just if you're doing a show, you're also going to need a coach for at least, I would say, 3 months after the show. So it's one of those things where it's like, this is not just like a one-time investment. You hire a coach for 12 weeks, you do the show, you do your own makeup, you got to get a suit too. Like, and I say that as like, you don't just want to get any competition suit either. If you've worked this hard, suits can be $500-600. Get a nice suit, at least rent a suit. But even then, the suit might not fit you well. And then you might get knocked because of that. And what an awful thing would it be to get knocked because the suit doesn't fit you well?
For sure. And then there's just
Yeah.
like a lot of expenses that you don't expect, you know. So being prepared for that, especially when you, like she said, you've worked so hard and you're dieted down, why add extra stress? If you prepare for it prior, then you go into a prep, you know, feeling good. You've got the support system. It sets you up for success, especially because this is an investment in your time and energy, you know,
Yeah,
and you want to look your best and do your best. So,
for sure. And I think too, something nuanced that I didn't even mention, how do you know you're ready for a prep when your calories are not at 1600? You cannot, once again, this is thinking about longevity in the sport and longevity in a prep. I have started preps at 1800 calories, which I think is low. And I had to get down to, I had my fair share of 1,000-calorie days on that prep.
oh, yeah, completely agree. But well, like we mentioned prior, I coached myself for the longest time, and my calories never were above 1500, even in like the off season.
So you had to push
I
real
just,
hard.
yeah. And then at the end, it was so hard for my body to get that weight off. And then working with a coach who um taught me, you know, that I should be eating way more food and everything. I'm like, whoa, this is weird, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think just to cap off this question, you shouldn't be entering into a prep doing, honestly, like more than, I'm just throwing out a number, but if you're doing like more than 20 minutes of cardio a day, your calories are low, just think about what that's going to look like 16 to 24 weeks down the road. Like that could easily turn into 120 minutes of cardio a day, less than 1,000 calories. Just make sure you're setting yourself up for success there, emotionally and internally. Okay. What do the judges look for in bikini? You want to?
Yeah. So it's like, well, hard, but not too hard, but also full. No, just kidding. But rounded shoulders, they look for roundness in the glutes, but they don't want to see super defined, like where the tie-in is like pointed, and yeah, the separation. And then with shoulders, they don't want to see striations, but they want fullness there. No ab striations. It's like a fine balance between um being too lean, you know? And
Yeah, I think that now they've gotten really, really good at honing in on the judging criteria, and when they're making decisions on like placings and whatnot, they're really staying in alignment with what Tyler has articulated that they want.
I agree.
But you're seeing these girls, first of all, these girls are big. They've got a lot of muscle. So if you think that you're feeling big in the off season, you're probably still not big enough, honestly. But yeah, I mean, to everything that Shelby said, I remember I used to always get really wrapped up in my head because my core, it's really, really tough for my core to get like shredded. Like all the girls would post those pictures, like holding up their boobs and they would see all the abs. And I never had that. Like I would be in the bathroom at night, like trying to get it and I just couldn't. And I will say that it finally did happen for me this past prep, but we did nutritionally a lot of different things. But I used to look at girls backstage and be like, oh, she's gonna win because she's got like a veiny 12-pack. But that's not what they look for. Like I've seen girls that literally win. And when I was doing Clash, I won my class and I had 0 abs. Not to say I looked watery, but I just always used to use that as like an indicator that a girl was going to win, but it's totally not. It's about balance. They want to see, they've emphasized this hourglass figure. And even if you're boxy, there's a lot that we can do in terms of posing to also create the hourglass figure.
Well, and that's like another thing when it comes to bikini, you need to be getting feedback because what looks, no person is the same, no physique is the same. So by getting that feedback, you're going to hear from the judges exactly what your physique specifically needs in order to fit that category, where you need to improve and come back better next time. And yeah, it's so important, I feel like, for feedback.
Yeah, they definitely just look for a balanced athlete. Obviously, and there was something else I was going to say too. It's really the whole package. Like when you're up there, I also like to almost compare bikini. I feel like I'm going to get shade for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. That it's kind of pageanty in the sense that you are being evaluated on your hair, on your makeup, on your tan, on your presence, like not looking nervous and jittery. So, that's also what they look for. Like if your tan is off, that has been feedback for girls. Your posing is off, that has been feedback. So just take into consideration, it's not only about the package that you bring physically. Okay, so this girl had asked anything you learned at nationals that I could take going into my show this weekend. Yes. The biggest thing that I learned at nationals was I come from a background in ballet, competitive dancing, and I've always been in sports. I've always been the girl with a bunch of guy friends, and I've always been in sports where girls are back to back, we're against one another. And going into shows, I've always stalked the competition. I have always I just verbalized it. I've always seen the girls as competition. And this first year, nationals, I joined a different team, and this team has a lot of female athletes, a lot of bikini competitors, and it's not out of the realm of possibility to be going up against them or being in the same height class as them. And I remember texting our coaches and being like, what do you do when you have 4 of the same athletes that you're coaching competing in the same height class? And they were like, what do you mean? We all want you to win. And I just didn't understand that until I got there. And I truly was like, oh my gosh, like this sport is so much more fun. Truthfully, those hours backstage are freaking long. They're long. And in between prejudging and finals, the nerves, all the things. And to, for once, feel like it doesn't hurt you or help you in any way to like not talk to other girls or not make conversation or like cultivate friendships with other girls. Like the judges don't know what you said or didn't say backstage or the effort that you made with X girl. Like, and that's who's judging you. They're not sitting there watching you like isolate yourself or have a conversation and meet a new friend. So going into your show this weekend, like cultivate the friendships, because at the end of the day, the judges are going to see you on stage and they don't care about the friendships on stage. They're still going to make their calls. And so it doesn't help you to see your teammates or other girls as competition. It only gets in your head more.
Yeah, that is so true. Well, and being self-coached for so long, I was that person too who just sat backstage by myself. And I mean, aside from being a team, just like interacting, it makes it so much more fun. It gives you
Yeah.
the whole experience. These are moments in your life that you're never going to get back, and something that you've worked months and months to accomplish. Like, soak up every freaking minute of it, and it's so much better when you're hanging out with other girls backstage and having a good time.
Yeah. Any other advice that you would give? Oh,
um
I have one.
Go ahead.
Well, actually, kind of these tie together. Freaking go to finals. Like, I don't care
Oh
if you
yeah.
are dead last. Go to finals. It's such poor sportsmanship to not show up for that finals. Like, everybody knows, everybody's talking about it. The judges know. Like, it almost hurts you, I think, more than actually showing up for prejudging, like, or not showing up at all. Go to finals. Don't go out in between prejudging and finals. And like, I just think that this is like, actually, I can speak on this. I had my first national show and I was in dead first. I was supposed to get my pro card. And at finals, they swapped us. But what I didn't do was I didn't go out in between prejudging and finals and go have like a burger and a milkshake and say like, screw it, because you don't know what's going to happen at finals. Are you going to go from dead last to first? No. But you could get moved up. You could get moved up into first call. You don't know. So like, don't blow that. And then after the show, stay for feedback. You might as well not have even gone to the show if you don't go up to the judges and show face and like have them make a connection with you and build that relationship. These judges remember you.
Oh, definitely. And how are you supposed to make improvements if you want to be competitive and need to know what you can improve on, if you
Oh, and
don't go get that feedback?
when you email a judge, they're going to
I've
take,
never,
if you want to do a show like in a month or two, you might be waiting until you're in your casket before you get a response. And if you do, how are you going to feel if the judge is like sending feedback to 350 other athletes and you need more fullness? Okay, where? What does fullness mean? Does it mean I need more food, or does it mean like,
yeah.
oh, it's just good to feedback. Stand in the line. Okay. Um, these are really good questions. Okay. How do you maintain a strict routine when you're exhausted? Okay. A strict routine when you're exhausted. So I'm going to answer this in a really weird way. Shelby, I'm going to give you a second to think about your strict routine when you're exhausted. But I'm not going to be like fruity about it. Like, yeah, I have a why. But honestly, sometimes when you're exhausted, it's really tough to maintain a strict routine. But I think that the question kind of answers itself. Like, you may be exhausted, but exhaustion is not the prerequisite or the permission, if you will, to deviate from your routine. And if your exhaustion is causing you to deviate from your routine is probably not adequate for you. So for example, like if you have your workouts in your cardio that you're always saving for the evening and you're exhausted by the evening, then that routine is probably not suitable for you, because the routine, void of that routine, you're only going to feel more exhausted. So maybe your routine needs to change. Like, you might need to do the cardio in the morning when you have more energy.
Yeah. And I would say just discipline. This sport is, you have to be disciplined if you really want to be competitive. And it's something that comes with time. It took me a little while to get to a point where I had that discipline in competing, especially when the exhaustion hits. I've worked 2 to 3 jobs at the same time as prepping. And I look back at it now and I'm like, how did I do that? But I mean, obviously, uh, my mental state wasn't that great. But
Yeah.
now, things like going to get a facial, go to get a massage, something that's going to relax you. Um, that you make time for, so that your mindset can be at ease and you can feel, give yourself a little bit of self-love, but don't deviate from your program. Go do something that you want to do, but also fits into your programming,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that gets neglected a lot when you are, you know, prepping for a show, is like the little things that give back to your body, whether it's like still making church a priority on the weekend and watching it on TV instead of going in person. Or like for me, one thing that I started doing leading up into nationals was I found this like salt therapy room, and I get a 90-minute every week, a 90-minute pink salt Himalayan massage, and they massage magnesium into your body. And it's not a heavy massage. It's like a very light touch lymphatic drainage thing. And they pump pink salt into the room. And it was an investment, but it really does give back to you and allows you to recharge. Like sometimes when we're exhausted, we're like, we're going to do the bare minimum, but then you're also not recharging your batteries in any way, shape, or form. And I know it's intuitive to stop doing those things, but those things are also what's keeping you going. So definitely that's how I maintain my routine when I'm exhausted. Question here: how do you decide which category you'd like to compete in? I think it's important that a lot of girls will identify with a certain category. But with that being said, it's important to be realistic with where you're at and like your physique. I would say that most girls are going to start in bikini or wellness, and wellness if they have like very, very developed lower bodies. You do have girls that I guess would start in like figure or physique, but I think a lot of girls, I will say, come in and think that they're going to be wellness. I've heard this a lot. I'm going to be a wellness girly. And then they diet down and they see how small they really are. And they instead start in bikini. It doesn't mean that you can't advance to wellness, but I would say bikini is the one that requires the least amount of muscle maturity. So if you're younger, it's muscle maturity, just in case anyone doesn't know, as you age, your muscle matures. So it's very, very tough if you're looking at like advanced level or pro or Olympian level bikini girls. I had a conversation with one of my college athletes who's a competitor about this. Is like, you're looking at a 35-year-old girl. She's got a lot more muscle maturity than an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old girl. So it's important to take that into consideration, and like, your goals in this sport. If you want to just get on stage to get on stage, pick the division that you resonate with. But if you want to get on stage and be competitive, it's important that you're also collaborating with a truthful and honest coach who's going to give you an idea of what criteria you should be entertaining based on your structure and density.
Oh, completely agree. Yeah, just the foundation in which you're starting and how much muscle mass you have to begin with can come into play, what age, all that, like you just said. So
yeah, and I would say that there's natural athletes in every single division, but I do know from having a lot of friends in different divisions and in this sport that for the most part, bikini, if that anymore, is probably going to be the only division where you're going to be able to actually, show up and show off naturally.
I agree. Yeah.
Or at least with minimal use of things. As you climb into the different ranks, they're throwing the whole beef stew in there. It's a smorgasbord of PEDs. Oh, as a matter of fact, Addie, she asked a question. She said, thoughts on PEDs for bikini girls and when to consider them. I have thoughts. I've got the tea. So I think that if you are new to the sport, as in this is your first season, you're going into an off season, or maybe even this is your second season, or you're young, like if you're under the age of, honestly, like 25, I don't even think I would consider it. There's a lot of side effects to PEDs that people don't talk about. Internal health stuff, hair loss, voice changes, muscle cramps, like growth, like scale up. So I think it's important to first tap out as much genetic potential as possible. Second, evaluate like the risk, outweigh the pros and cons for yourself. Some people are like, listen, if I lose some hair, that's fine. Because you don't know, you really can't handpick which side effects you get when you start PEDs. Some people get the whole slew of them, some people don't. It's also important that you're working with a coach who, A, is going to refer you to a reputable source, i.e., they shouldn't be like just, passing them out like candy, because they're probably getting something that's not what they're telling you it is. When to consider them. Have you had labs drawn? What does your internal health look like? What does your liver health look like? Liver and kidneys are two things that really get affected with PED usage. And then your coach's knowledge and education. I've seen coaches keep girls on PEDs for far, far, far too long. And that's when, us females, we start to sound like men, and we start to lose hair, and we start to all the things that will chase you. Though just because you get off the PED doesn't mean that those things go away either. So they'll chase you your whole life. So that's kind of, thoughts on PEDs for bikini girls. I think that once you're when you're really, trying to get a pro card, you've been at it for a few years, when you're, getting feedback consistently at that point that you just need more size or fullness, or you're trying to like become Miss Bikini Olympia. But otherwise, like if you're at these small regional shows and whatnot, you're new to the sport, you're young, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just educating yourself. Yes, your coach should know, but also educate yourself, because like she said, it's side effects that aren't talked about and stuff. And then really knowing what it does for your body before you even take it,
Yeah.
like, why am I gonna take this? And I feel like most people just take things without even considering those types of things, or even looking into what they do for them to
Or
really,
testing it.
what's that? Or
Or
testing it.
testing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. To
Buy a
have like
test kit.
exactly. And so I don't know, it's just be careful and do it the right way if you are going to do it.
Yeah, I think too, you see a lot of coaches out there who remember your coach's goal, whether they're a good coach or maybe a bad coach. I don't really like to use that term because I don't think that there are bad coaches. I like to believe that every coach is a good coach, just not suitable for the athlete, or maybe vice versa. But there's a lot of coaches, their primary goal, right, is to help you get to stage, if that's your goal. Now, with that being said, not every coach is concerned about you having a healthy family and conceiving a baby. Not every coach is concerned about you looking or sounding like a lady in 5 years. And so I mean, we have girls on this team who come to us and they are taking the smorgasbord of PEDs, and it is absolutely insane. I saw a girl's lab. She was on literally everything under the sun. She was on 100 and I think it was like 60 or 190 milligrams of Clin. She was taking Primo. She was taking Bar. There was like literally like 6 or 7 things that this girl was on, and just taking it because her coach just said to. So really, really important. Inform yourself, ask other girls like what they're taking, what they've been on, survey people, and don't just do it because your coach says to. It's not worth it. Someone had asked, when is your next show? We are 9 weeks out. Another person asked, do masters divisions have a 60 plus? Yeah, I think there is actually some shows that are 60 plus. Easy.
Yeah, I think they just added some more in, right?
Yeah, I know
Like,
there's some like shows out in the Midwest
yeah.
have master 60. Do you change your workout split every couple of months? How does it change for competitions? So my workout split changes, I would say every 12 to 16 weeks, honestly. But for my athletes, I tend to change it like every 8 to 10, maybe less. But you have to understand that, you know, when your workouts get boring is probably when they're working or when you're not working hard enough. Your workouts should pretty much wreck you. Now, when you're in prep, the only thing that I do that's different is my focus is no longer tearing down the muscle. I'm not really going for a PR. And once I'm steep in prep and energy is low, I'm on high cardio, food is low, you don't want to injure yourself. So my focus and intention really becomes just getting a pump, getting blood flow and glycogen shuttled to the muscle belly. But my workouts don't change. In clients, when I have them steep in a fat loss phase, I don't change their workouts because changing the workouts can also produce soreness and injury and things like that.
Yeah, whenever my workouts have been the same for a really long period of time, and I still saw great progress with that. Like Maddie was saying, sometimes it does get a little boring, but sometimes boring is where the results are, or you're not pushing yourself hard enough. And then, yeah, I don't feel like my workouts, I asked my coach to reduce from 6 days a week to 5 days a week, but really that's the only difference for me between like off season and on season. So
I didn't get a reduction. Good for you.
I asked for it.
Okay, looks like we have about 4 more questions here. So question number 1, any advice on starting the cut and mistakes to avoid? Yeah, so I'm going to name like my top 3 and then advice on starting the cut. So start small. I say less is more, although I will say that the first cut that I make of calories from clients is the largest. The reason being is motivation is very high. Calories are usually pretty high, so you're actually relieved to have less food. And we can ride that out for a longer period of time. I'll have clients that will continuously drop, you know, between 1% and 3% of their weight every single week without us changing calories at all from that initial drop. And same thing goes for like bumping up cardio. Like don't go from 0 to 100. You're going to have no place to go. So start small. If you're at 0 cardio, start with 10, 15 minutes a day. Like start very, very small. You'd be surprised what that can do. Advice on starting the cut, mistakes to avoid. I'll touch on a mistake here. Make sure you've got a good sleep hygiene routine in place. Like you probably hear this from coaches all the time, but man, I have checked every single box in the past and not drop body fat because my sleep was dog crap. I mean, sleep is how your body's repairing itself. Sleep is also how you're going to make sure that your hunger signaling is not wonky do and you're not getting up in the morning and like craving food. And then mistakes to avoid, something else. I would say like making sure that you've got a solid foundation in a knowledge of like healthy foods. I know that sounds so dumb, so dumb. But what I mean by that is like, if you are going into a diet or a cutting phase and you're planning on like eating protein bars and things like that, they're high calorie, they're not going to hold you over. You're going to struggle a lot more with those things in your diet protein bars, tons of protein shakes, like cereal, waffles, like start to think about meals that are higher fiber foods, that are lower glycemic, sweet potatoes, brown rice, oatmeal, Ezekiel toast, and start to build out some meals that way. So you can just make the process more sustainable. Because I think a lot of times when we don't really switch gears and you're still eating a lot of those like processed protein snacks and whatnot, or too many artificial sweeteners, you're just asking for a lot of trouble.
Oh, for sure, especially with your digestion by the end of like prep, you know, you're putting so much stress on your body anyways, or cutting in a cutting phase, you're putting stress on your body anyways, and then having all these processed foods and things that your body has a hard time breaking down and then aren't keeping you full. It's just, yeah, a balanced
I
diet
think
is
too, like
that.
I am a sugar whore. Like I love
Mhm.
sweets, and I used to put like sugar-free syrup on everything. Like I would put it on eggs, on vegetables, on chick. Like I loved it. And let me tell you, when it came, even sauces like G Hughes sauce, teriyaki sauce, like I love sauce. I used to love sauces. I eat all my meals without sauces now, but I used to love them. And I think that in some ways, in a lot of ways, actually not having sweet meals, like learning how to enjoy savory meals, learning how to enjoy the taste of vegetables. Yes, it can be taught, and not dousing everything in sauces, which in prep, they're going to be low calorie. They're going to do damage on your gut. And not trying to sweeten everything is going to help you so much. But if all of your meals are cream of rice with a scoop of vanilla, ghost whey, and sugar-free syrup and stevia, you are not going to be satisfied, because that is creating a spike in blood glucose, which is a spike in cortisol. And when it crashes, your body, its natural response is to eat more food in order to raise your blood glucose again. So sugary sweet things, save them for the end of the day. Have one sugary sweet thing and be done.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like especially in preps and everything, I noticed the biggest change in my physique. It's just like little habit changes of the sodiums and the two of my preps last season. I didn't keep track of my sodium at all and didn't regulate it. And once we switched to where I was keeping an eye on it and weighing out my salt even, my body responded so much better. And I have an issue with like water retention when I fly and stuff. And my body, it was like I was like a whole different person with just keeping
Yeah.
sodium wraps, artificial sweeteners, things like that, and just really focusing on clean whole foods. I felt 10 times better as far as hunger and cravings and all of that stuff too.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Okay, we've got 3 more questions. This is a good one because I feel like this is thematic right now, but best being sick while cutting and eating very deficient, what is your advice? I think the way that this question is worded, I'm going to try to interpret it the best that I can, but I think what she means is, you know, when you're sick and you're not hungry, which a lot of my clients deal with, like how do you combat that? And honestly, like bone broth is a lifesaver. You can make like a chicken noodle soup with bone broth. Bone broth is really, really good for immunity. But I also try to do things that are super soothing for your body, but that are more high calorie and low volume. So switching over to like, if you're having fruits, eating fruits like bananas, eating fruits like mango and pineapple that are still high in antioxidants, but they're also higher in carbs and in calories. Maybe not doing like, you know, you're not going to have an appetite likely for like salads. So instead, eating something like a bowl of oatmeal with like coconut oil mixed in, You can even pour some egg whites into the oatmeal and cook that in the microwave. So there's a lot of ways to get adding honey to things, like putting honey in a protein shake, throwing some vegetables in there. You can even put oats into a protein shake and blend it just to make it more high volume, to make it more satiating. Because when you're sick, your body needs food to recoup and heal.
Yeah, I agree. I was big on bone broth for a while too.
Yeah,
And that's
leading into my old shows, I actually used to get glass jars of bone broth. I loved it. After I had COVID, I literally would just drink it straight out of the jar. And I got on this brand that they only had at Walmart, and I had to travel with it to my shows. Now, bone broth is heavy. So to my shows, I had to bring like 6 jars, glass jars. And my mom's like, what do you do if that bone broth shatters? Like, I don't know. All right, we've got 2 more questions here. Best time for high volume, low weight versus high weight, low volume. I don't know if they mean time. I'm going to take this as not time of day, but like season, maybe. I'm a huge advocate, even when I'm in prep, for lifting as heavy as I possibly can safely. I'm not trying to PR, but you should be trying to maintain muscle. So, whether that is, you know, I don't personally believe in there being rhyme or reason to like high rep, low weight, high weight, low rep. It's what works for you, right? Like if you're shuttling carbs to the muscle, if you're atrophying your muscles, if you're, you know, fatiguing the muscle, whether that's through high reps and little weight or high weight and little reps, it's working. So whatever you prefer.
Yeah, I agree. And just based off of like what your goals are too. Usually if I have somebody who is wanting more of a fat loss program, I'll typically do higher reps, and they aren't looking to put on like lean muscle mass, you know. If that's what they're wanting, then that's typically how I'll program them, is like higher repetitions, lighter weight, but still I want them to challenge themselves, because that's how your body is going to get the muscle, you know.
Yeah, maintain the muscle.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I
meant. Okay, last one here. Hello, beautiful. Hi. What do you take to help you for digestion when fiber and food is low? Supplements? So yes, I have these also linked down below. I do suggest though keeping, you know, fiber is one of those things where everybody has a sweet spot. You know, you don't want to all of a sudden just like overload your body with fiber, because they say that the magic number is 30 grams. You know, it's important that if you're at like 8 grams, you're not doing that. Maybe you try for like 15. But I will also say that the first thing that I look at when I do dietary recalls on clients is the food sources that they're getting fiber from. Like a lot of people have issues with fiber because they're getting it from those high fiber wraps, those low carb wraps, instead of true soluble and insoluble fiber sources, because there's 2 types of fiber, one that's going to help to add bulk to your stool, the other one that's going to help to lubricate your colon. So if you're only getting fiber from one of those, it's no wonder that you're having digestive issues. So the first thing to look through is, are you getting a mix of soluble and insoluble fiber, and where your fiber is coming from? Supplements though, I always like to incorporate, like for digestion, just cheap things. Apple cider vinegar and aloe twice a day. I'll do 1 ounce of apple cider vinegar, 2 ounces of aloe, and I'll put a scoop of glutamine. Now, a lot of athletes take 1 scoop of glutamine a day. That is the serving size, but it's actually doing nothing for you. You typically need 3 to 4 scoops of that spread periodically throughout the day to actually do anything for your gut lining. So I'll do 1 scoop of that in there, and then I'll put it in drinks throughout the day. But do the apple cider vinegar 30 minutes before like breakfast and 30 minutes before dinner to really help with digestion. And then I always like to recommend too in prep, there's a few supplements. I'll take like a pancreatic digestive enzyme with betaine hydrochloric acid. I'll take the Metagest that's linked down below. I do glutagenics, which is glutamine and aloe. And then I also do bloat ease, which is a bovine, it's like a hydrolyzed bovine protein or something like that. But I take 2 scoops of that a day when I'm in prep, and it really, really helps with bloating.
Yeah, magnesium can help too. If you're taking magnesium, it'll help with digestion.
True. Most people are deficient in that.
Yeah. I feel like most people don't know the importance of magnesium. But yeah, it definitely helps me, and it'll help you sleep better too.
For sure. All right, people. We made it through all the questions.
Yay.
We did it. All right, guys. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to see Shelby and we're going to be on here doing some calls. We're actually, I will link our team Facebook group down below. So if any of you guys want to go over to our free Facebook community, Shelby and I are going to start doing some team calls that you can hop on, even if you're not on our team, and just learn more. We'll cover different topics, and then we will have recordings of those posted in the Facebook group. So stay tuned for those. If you guys have more questions about prepping or fat loss or working with a coach, drop them down below. I will be sure to get back around to those, or I'll have Shelby provide some of her insight and her wisdom. Hey YouTube, thank you all so much for watching this week's video. I hope you guys learned something. I hope that you laughed at some things. I hope you related to some things. As always, you know my goal is to keep it real. This past weekend, I had the pleasure of attending the NPC Women's Conference that was hosted by Sandy. It was such an incredible experience, but primarily because I got to meet a lot of you. That is truly why I make these videos, is because of the relationships that I built over time with a lot of you guys. Many of you guys come over to my Instagram page, and if you know me, you know that I am nosy, and I will reach out to you and I will start conversation, and before you know it, we're going to be besties. So head over to my IG page if you haven't already. If any of you guys are considering competing, hiring a coach, getting more lean, or getting leaner, getting more toned, returning to the stage, trying to get your pro card, all the things. Whether you want to work with me or whether you want to work with Shelby, the link is always down below to apply. I hope to meet each and every one of you soon, and stay tuned for next week's video. Please be sure to like this video if you like these types of Q&A type podcast things. Subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you're notified each and every week when there's a new video posted. I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I'll talk to you next time.